All right, shalom, 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 shalom. I want to start off by giving all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rachak, Wadash, double honors unto my elders and my apostles, great millstone, which are the men that rule well and taught us truth. Peace, blessings, and salutations to the elect as always, man. And just real quick, man, just wanted to go in on a quick lesson. Essentially, Congress voted yes on the HR 8800. You got to Google that. Basically, when you go into it, you know, uh, I believe this article right here at the top is a little I think it's like a month old. And then you got this article, you got people doing, you got Esau doing damage control. Um, but basically, Esau is merging his military with the IDF. Um, and it's funny because I actually asked chat, some questions about it, and Esau's doing damage control, and certain things that I was, seeking answers of, they didn't really, they couldn't really answer the question. It just said no, that's not going to happen because I was basically asking, um, with the USA troops merging with, the Israeli Defense Forces, what type of rights could that give them? That Esau didn't want to actually answer it, but nonetheless, man, this is just another step closer to prophecy being fulfilled, man. Well, prophecy is being fulfilled with all these different things happening, but this is just another step closer to, the destruction of America. All right, and shoot, our land being made desolate as well. Okay, let me actually, because I only have 3 precepts really, but I want to read this article on Al Jazeera. Yeah, Al Jazeera, real quick. Um, Let me see. I just want to look up a scripture. Uh, Hopefully I can find it. I forgot how it's worded. Um, so like, bear with me. I don't want to, because I don't want to ramble too much. It's a lot of information to take in. I googled a few things. Um, but yeah, no, Esau's in an uproar because right now because of the fact that they feel like they're losing the country, which they never really had it. A lot of especially the anti-MAGA, anti-MAGA people, they're against this happening because they feel as though this is their country and we shouldn't be merging with no Israelis, and they don't like them. They don't like those Amalekites, man. Okay, so let me see. Yeah, different things like that, um, as well. Also, there's a lot of different people right now. And I was gonna originally make this video on my cell phone and just post the TikToks, but I'm gonna just, because you could pretty much look it up yourself. I was gonna just edit in the TikToks, but it's gonna be kind of difficult to do that. Um, since I'm recording on my laptop, but nonetheless, I'm gonna read a few things because basically it merges and it basically just what this bill is doing or is gonna do is it's gonna allow you know the data collecting infrastructures to merge and all these different things. That's information, and all of like the information stuff, all the information technology, right, is going to be merged together, which is a big deal because essentially with their militaries merging, things like that, it means that once, what makes it controversial, quote unquote, they're going to say it in this article, is basically Israel's choice of who they're going to war with and what they're doing exactly, which really reminds me or leads me to the scripture, in Jeremiah 50. But I'm gonna read this little bit of this article first, and then go into the scriptures. Salaki, I'm kind of pausing a lot. It's because I'm looking for a scripture. I can't find it. Maybe Lord's will, I can remember as I read. But anyway, so this is an article on Al Jazeera. U.S. Congress moves to deepen military ties with Israel. Let's see if it tells you the. So this is from May. So it's like 2 months ago. But it actually just recently, Congress voted yes on this bill. Okay, so let's read a little bit. It says the NDAA, which Congress passes annually to set military policy and authorize defense spending, will undergo further debate and amendments before becoming law. Some legislators have already signaled opposition, with Representative Thomas Massie saying he would seek to remove the provision if it reaches the House floor. The measure remains at an early stage, but analysts say if passed, it would limit political oversight over the defense relationship. Analysts added that it could mark a significant shift in U.S.-Israel relationship, moving beyond a model centered on American military aid towards deeper institutional integration between two countries' defense industries and militaries. Critics argue that such a move would make support for Israel less a matter of political choice and more a structural feature of U.S. national security policy. Right. So it says national security policy embedding the relationship with joint military and industrial programs that would be difficult to unwind. Right. Of course it is. If you decide to merge your militaries and your aid is going straight to them, even more so now, right? Because as if they're not already getting aid from us, right? Even more so now, it's basically like them saying, Israel saying, well, we want to go to war here, while the people are saying, no, we don't. Well, it's too late. It doesn't matter now because they done merged together, all right? And you can't say no to somebody you already merged with. It's two different countries with two different, well, really not really two different mindsets, because we know that they're all doing the bidding of the elite. But the American people are just, the majority in America, they don't agree with what Israel is doing. They don't want Israel. They don't want to continue to war. Meanwhile, while that country, while Israel is going to war, the average American is worried about rent. It's worried about, why are we sending aid to Israel? People are talking about these Amalekites, man. They're talking about the gutter rats on the internet. They're saying, why are we sending these people money? We need money here. We need money at home. And what is America doing? Giving them even more aid. This is just another unrighteous decree, all right, that is causing people to be in an uproar, and it makes sense why Esau is so mad. The average Edomite and the lower tier Edomites are upset, because they're saying, yo, why are you spending money with this country when you're supposed to be worried about your home, right? So it says Section 224 incorporates elements of the U.S.-Israel Future of Warfare Act legislation introduced by Representative Ronnie Jackson. According to Track APAC, while the legislation did not advance as a standalone bill, key elements of it were instead folded into the NDAA. The provision would require the U.S. Defense Secretary to designate an official responsible. Let me read that again. The provision would require the U.S. Defense Secretary to designate an official responsible for coordinating military cooperation between the two countries. According to the text, the official would be tasked with synchronizing cooperative efforts between the United States and Israel, including bilateral defense technology research, development, testing, evaluation, integration, and industrial cooperation. The legislation envisages cooperation across a wide range of military technologies. It specifically identifies as priority areas: counter unmanned systems, including aerial, maritime, and ground platforms; anti-tunneling and subterranean threats; missile and air defense technologies. Let me get to the point where I want to get to. Salakia. Oh, the inclusion of, right here, I'm right here now, the inclusion of network integration and data fusion has drawn particular attention because it suggests significantly closer integration of military information systems between the two countries. Yeah. So it's drawn attention because basically, people are afraid of, which they already, have these things. They're afraid also of, the gutter rats country having our information, which they already do. I remember there was like a little quarrel about it with Waze, the Waze app, how they're like, oh, it's owned by them. Well, everything is owned by them. So they already have all your information. This doesn't make it any worse in reality. Yes and no, right? But it says, the United States and Israel already cooperate on defense projects, including missile defense systems such as Iron Dome, which doesn't do shit. However, Analysts say that the Section 224 would expand cooperation into nearly every major area of emerging military technology, it says, and could create a lock-in between the two countries' military infrastructure. Right. So let me pause that real quick. All right, I'm gonna go down to this point because I don't want to just read the whole article. I'm gonna link it in the description if you want to read it yourself. And also look up the information on TikTok. I kind of just did this on the fly. That's why I don't have too many precepts, and I'm kind of scrambling to get a little more. Because I did get it as breaking news on my TikTok feed that Congress pretty much passed it. They said yes to the majority vote on this. This is what they're gonna do, right? So why is it controversial? The proposal comes amid debate in the U.S. over military support for Israel, particularly as Israel's genocidal war on Gaza continues, and concerns mount over the use of U.S.-made weapons. Yeah, because people are like, "All right, Israel's doing this. That's a war crime. Who's funding it? Them, right?" So this is what makes it. Because now that we're holding hands even tighter, because now it's not just Israel. It's not just Israel receiving aid from the U.S. Now it's an integration. Now it's, oh, we're doing this. You know, it says human rights organizations in the United Nations. The United Nations experts have oh Slovakia. United Nations experts have repeatedly raised concerns about Israeli military actions in Gaza, where despite a so-called ceasefire in place, because it was a so-called ceasefire, because really nothing really stopped. At least 850 Palestinians have been killed. Israel is also advancing in southern Lebanon, where it has killed more than 3,000 people since the beginning of March. These wars have led to increasing skepticism among Americans towards unconditional support for Israel, recent opinion polls suggest, right? Because the American people, they're like, we don't want to do this. This is genocide. This is wrong. This is a war crime. But guess what? They're in the pockets of the elite, and this is really all prophecy, man. All right. So let me get, first I'm going to get this. Wait. Slovakia. Jeremiah 50 and 45. Therefore, hear ye the counsel of the Lord, that he hath taken against Babylon, which this Babylon is talking about is America, right? Because what? It speaks about making this place desolate. Ancient Babylon is northern Iraq. Northern Iraq is not desolate, it has inhabitants. So this is how you know this is a prophetic Babylon. This is not talking about Babylon from the past, right? So it says, Jeremiah 50 and 45, therefore hear ye the counsel of the Lord, that he hath taken against Babylon and his purposes, that he hath proposed against the land of the Chaldeans. Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. Right? Who's the least of the flock? Who is the smallest? It's funny because now people are saying online, their favorite quote to say is, a country the size of New Jersey is pimping America. A country the size of New Jersey just overtook us. A country the size of New Jersey had just took over our country, right? By legislation, right? And it's funny because the least of the flock, they're the least of the flock, you know. These dudes are the biggest welfare babies. They ain't got nothing, Israel without America is nothing, right? Because what they don't really have nothing. They're just welfare babies, all right. They're not actually powerful. They're just everything that they have was given to them by the Lord, right? So it says surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. It says, surely he shall make their habitation desolate with them, right? Because the end of America and the end of Israel, all right, is desolation. America's promised to be destroyed, and our land is also, our holy land has to be cleansed by the fire, all right? And I'm going to find that precept. Matter of fact, I'll go ahead and find it real quick. All right, I've done found the precept finally. Um, so real quick, this is Ezekiel 38. I'm gonna read 18 through 19, but first I'm gonna read Revelation. I mean, not Revelation. Jeremiah 50 and 45 again, it says, "Therefore hear ye the counsel of the Lord that he hath taken against Babylon and his purposes, that he hath proposed against the land of the Chaldeans. Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. Surely he shall make their habitation desolate with them." Right? The Heavenly Father is going to, pretty much, he's going to, well, for one, he's going to destroy Babylon the Great, completely make it completely desolate to where, no one's going to dwell there, no creature's going to dwell there, only, the unclean fowls, right? Only certain unclean animals are gonna dwell in America, right? So this is Ezekiel 38, and I'll start at 19. No, 18. Ezekiel 38 and verse 18 says, now this is future prophecy, man. When you go into Ezekiel 38, it's going into what? World War III. Okay? When you go into Ezekiel 38th chapter, because this is all just steps towards, the third world war. All right? This is just another, step towards that. All right? We ain't there yet, obviously, because certain prophecies have to happen. But it says, "Thus saith the Lord, art thou he?" Oh, no, verse 18, Salakia, and it says, "And it shall come to pass at that time when Gog shall come against the land of Israel, saith the Lord power, that my fury shall come up in my face, for in my jealousy and in the fire of my wrath have I spoken. Surely in that day there shall be a great shaking in the land of Israel." Right. So the destruction is coming towards that land, man. All right, with those inhabitants in it. They're not getting away with nothing. Okay, that's the thing, man. These people think that, these people who are pretending to be us, they think that they're going to get away with certain things. No, there's going to be a great shaking in the land of Israel. All right. Also, that the desolation promised to America, and I'm going to get into that in Revelations in a second. So let's go back to the article, Al Jazeera. Why is it controversial? I'm going to go to the point because I feel like I've been going for quite a while. Yeah. Excuse me. Oh wow. Former Representative Major Taylor Greene criticized the proposal on social media, writing, This is what complete capture to a foreign government looks like, and there hasn't been a single shot fired." Right? It says Massey, who has opposed military aid to Israel, likewise pledged to introduce an amendment removing the provision from the NDAA. The Republican senator was defeated in the primary elections last month, highlighting the financial and political influence of pro-Israel lobby groups in the U.S. Influential controversial commentator Tucker Carlson has increasingly criticized U.S. support for Israel, reflecting divisions within the broader MAGA movement. Criticism has also intensified among left-wing Democrats, with many calling for restrictions on military aid to Israel. So it says, oh, and for the record, dang, I can't believe I forgot to mention it. When I read here in verse 18, where it says, "When Gog shall come against the land of Israel," because we know Russia is going to step in, at some point, because when you read up, that the Lord's going to put the hooks into thy jaws. They're gonna, hey man, they're gonna step in, man. In the Third World War, Russia's gonna step in. They're gonna do what they do, man. All right, it's gonna be an awesome thing to obviously, we're gonna be over here in America going through what we're going through. Our temptation, Jacob's trouble. All right, but hey, when we get to see it in the kingdom and how it happened, it's gonna be amazing. All right, because what, man, these people got to get judged for what they're doing, man. All right, and this is the judgment. Okay, so what could it mean in practice? Here's the point. It says critics of the measures warn that the proposal could create a form of institutional lock-in that makes both countries simultaneously reliant on each other for military development and procurement. What's this word mean? Is a strategic process of sourcing, acquiring, and managing goods and services, or no? When in reality, it's really America is feeding them. Israel doesn't really have anything to offer the U.S. except for bodies, if that. You know what I'm saying? Really, it's Israel using the U.S. All right, and what, the least of the flock is drawing them out. Because what? like the scriptures say, man. I'm gonna get it. I actually have it. Dang, I done lost it. What did I? Oh, okay, verse 8. I think it's verse 8. No, not verse 8. Salakia. I believe. I don't. Wow, dang, man, there's so much to go into here. Let me see. Yep. Revelation 18 and 8. Yep. Actually, I might start up a little higher. I'm gonna start at 5. Yeah, I'm gonna start at 5. But Salakia, I kind of lost my train of thought a little bit. But basically, them locking in with each other, it'll make them relying on each other. No, in reality, it's the least of the flock drawing them out, like I was saying. Because what America's got to get dragged into this third world war. See, America doesn't. The American citizen does not want to, but everybody else, what do they want to? The American citizens don't want to go to war, but the elites, it's the Lord put the spirit on them to do that. So, all right, bet. So, Salaki, I was checking a message. So it says some analysts. Nope, I read that. Yeah, because Israel is the one that wants to go to war. America is just going to be forced in to fulfill prophecy. The scriptures say, "And these shall hate the whore." I believe that's what I was trying to find here. I think I lost the precept. Yeah, Revelation. Oh man, I was all the way up. Revelation 17 and 16. It says, "And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast," which is what the beast, NATO, the EU, right? "These shall hate the whore." Yeah, because every single country is going to come against America. Every single country is going to come against Israel. You know, the scriptures say, "Let the weak say, I am strong." Every country is going to go against Israel, is going to go against America. They're not going to. This is what these shall hate the whore and shall make her desolate and naked and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. Yeah, burn America. That's what's going to happen. That's what Ezekiel 38 is going into these different countries. That's going to go into the Third World War and make America desolate. Matter of fact, yeah, and they list them up here. I will turn verse 4 in Ezekiel 38. "And I will turn thee back by hooks into thy jaws, and I will bring thee forth all thine army, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords. Persia, Ethiopia with Libya, and then Libya with them, all of them with shield and helmet. Gomer and all his bands, these are all ancient countries that have modern day locations today. Be prepared and prepare for thyself, thou and all thy company." I'm gonna stop right there because it's a lot. But yeah, but these shall hate the whore. These different countries are gonna hate this place and they're gonna destroy it during the Third World War. And this is just another step towards that because what? With our militaries merging, that means the political lines are gonna be blurred. Meaning, if Israel wants to go to war, even though America doesn't want to, they merge. They're gonna have to. Okay, not just because of that, but because prophecy. All right. I'm gonna skip this. Well, no, I'm gonna read it. It says, some analysts say such integration would move key aspects of the U.S.-Israel relationship away from highly visible aid votes or commercial contracting and into the less transparent world of defense procurement and industrial partnerships at a state-to-state level. Hilborn from the King's College said, the initiative could also have direct implications for Palestinians if joint R&D produces more effective technology, Salakia, then systems related to surveillance, autonomous vehicles, AI, and targeting, and various counter drone or counter missile technology would be improved, providing a capability boost to Israeli forces operating in Gaza or the West Bank. He said, right. This enhanced integration would further embed U.S. technology into Israeli forces. These would all be concerns from a Palestinian's perspective, right? Because it's going to make them stronger, right? Critics also point to the economic implications where expanded co-production agreement could lead to new manufacturing facilities. It's just more blame on the U.S. really, all right? Because what Israel's going to do what they do with more money, more funding, and now the the government, our troops merging. And another aspect I wanted to touch on is the other aspect that I was going to originally touch on, and I'm going to mention it real quick, is because of this merging. I asked Copilot, will the IDF, what rights will the IDF have merging with U.S. troops? I misspelled U.S. And Copilot, it actually just looked at everything that I had looked up, including the scriptures, and it gave me the answer that, it gave me a disclaimer, and then it told me that they would not gain any rights. So I asked it again. It said, I asked it the exact same question, and it gave me a stop sign. And it said what the IDF would not gain: arrest powers over U.S. civilians. That's not what I asked. I just asked what type of rights would the IDF get now that America has merged with it. See, because it already knows where I'm going with it. It says arrest powers over U.S. citizens. They would not gain that, and this is all BS, man. We know that eventually, the U.S. when they turn this into a police state, there's only so many bootlickers, man. There's way more patriotic, quote unquote, Americans that are going to, stand up against the tyranny than there are bootlickers. The U.S. is going to need to hire mercenaries, and guess those are going to be the easiest ones to use. That's all I'm going to say. Because they right there already in the pocket, and they don't speak English. Domestic deployment rights, immunity from U.S. law, because these are the worries that people are talking about. This is the controversial things that people are talking about on TikTok. This is originally what I was going to make the whole lesson on. I wasn't even going to bring out the precepts on World War III, but the Spirit had me go a different way. To further go into the prophecy aspect of it. On the other end of World War III and making this place desolate. But it says authority over U.S. military personnel, operational command inside the U.S. Yeah, these are the things that they're not going to do, right? And I'm like, bro, I didn't even ask that. Why are you even suggesting that that's what I meant by that, right? What could change based on the article? Access to U.S. developed military tech. Yeah, of course, whatever, right? They're going to have the ability to use our AI and things like that, right? It says, now here's the point. I'm gonna just skip down because I've already been going I'm already at 30 minutes. I don't want to, drag it. So it says Hilborn also argued deeper integration. Deeper integration could reduce Washington's leverage over Israel. The deeper integration may also mean that the U.S. loses some degrees of leverage over Israel, as it would be less able to withhold certain capabilities from Israel. He said, yeah, it's very true. The least of the flock shall draw them out. That's what the scriptures say. As consequence, Israel might be emboldened in its policies, and that's exactly what's going to happen. Why? Not just because they merged, but because of prophecy. This is Revelation 18. I'll start at 5 and I'll read down to man, so much, man. I'm gonna just read down to 8. For her sins have reached unto heaven, and the power hath remembered her iniquities. Reward her even as she rewarded you, because this is the judgment of America. This merging and these alliances that this alliance that America is doing, you just allied with the very same country that is going to drag you into World War III. There is no more, oh, well, the American citizens decided this. No, the elites, you're doing the bidding of the elites. That's the thing. See, the people think that their vote matters. No, it never mattered. The elites, their country is doing the bidding of the elites. Your country just sold out to the Israeli forces, all right, and they're going to drag you into World War III. It's simple as that. Because what's Israel going to do? They're going to be those demons that they're supposed to be, killing everybody, trying to, You know what I'm saying? They're already in Lebanon. They're already attacking there. The ceasefire never really ceased. There was no ceasefire. They kept going. So this is the reward of America, all right? And Israel, like I read earlier, is going to get the same reward, but more so America, because really, well, America's the only one going to get this reward. Israel is going to be, you know, blown to smithereens, but we're going to cleanse them. We're going to go back into our land, into our rightful land, us as Israelites, the true Israelites, the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. It says, verse 6, Revelation 18:6, reward her even as she rewarded you, and double unto her double according to her works, in the cup which she hath filled to her double. How much she hath glorified herself and lived deliciously. So much torment and sorrow give her, for she saith in her heart, I sit a queen and am no widow, and shall see no sorrow. Therefore shall her plagues come in one day, death and mourning, famine, and she shall be utterly burned with fire, for strong is the Lord who judgeth her. Yep, that's right, man. Strong is the Lord who's going to judge America. Okay? I'm going to keep reading. And the kings of the earth who have committed fornication and lived deliciously with her shall bewail her and lament for her when they shall see the smoke of her burning, standing afar off for fear of her torment, saying, Alas, alas, that great city Babylon, that mighty city, for in 1 hour is thy judgment come. Yeah, that's right, man. In 1 hour, this place is going to be decimated. And guess what? The very country that you just merged with, okay, is the very country that's going to drag you into it. Thus saith the scriptures, Jeremiah 50:45, man. All right, Ezekiel 38 goes into those things as well. But hey, that's all I wanted to bring out real quick, man. I just wanted to bring out this article on Al Jazeera. Like I said, I'm gonna link it in the description so you can read more of it. And do your own research on it as well, because also there's a lot of things on TikTok that I really wanted to put them into this lesson, but I have no way of merging those videos on here. Maybe I'll figure it out. But without killing all my memory on my phone, But Salakia was a little lengthy. I was kind of all over the place with it, but Lord's will, you were still edified. I'm going to give all praise, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Ba'ashim, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashim, Rachak, Wadash, double honors unto my elders and apostles, a great millstone, which are the men that rule well and taught us truth. Peace, blessings, and salutations to the elected, always, man, Shalom.